Hello, fellow co-creator, and welcome to Magnetic Design. Today is the first day that I'm opening this magnetic design school. For the last couple of years, I've called my design work Elegance Lab because, and Elegance Lab still exists, because what I am tapping people into is a more creative process. I call my work Dream Dualship because it is like birthing a thing. Our creative work is living, it's real, it's alive. And this is a shift from the way that I learned about design as a student and as someone who has done graphic design work. I began to really realize design is living, it's as alive as we are. And so I called my work an innovation lab so that I could begin to expand into the science behind that. At the same time, I have continued to work with someone on design this year, and the combination of our design work and dream dualship has produced really beautiful results in her life. And we were in this conversation where I was like, listen, it's not the direction I'm going. I'm actually going more toward somatics, toward healing, toward the body. But at the same time, as we sat together, we talked about how much talking about design and creativity and color and light and vision did support the production of her vision unfolding. And so it kind of re-brought back into my field my design skills and this question of how I use my design skills for the good of the whole. So my intention and my desire on this platform is to bring design principles and skills in ways that you can use them and apply them if you are somebody who is creative or doesn't feel like you're creative, but you're still bringing a creative process into what you're doing because creativity is actually everything. Um, and in this specific video, I just want to talk a little bit about how my studies of feminine life cycles has contributed to my current design process. And then there's also a toolkit at the end. This is a much larger training. I hope to actually hold a workshop about this, but if you're interested in it at this time, since it's just an idea getting started, I'm in my level one stage, as I'll show you these levels. Please let me know if you would like this spreadsheet, this template I created. Um, we can actually do some formal sessions around that since it's still in iteration, or I can just offer that template to you. But I do want to know who it's going toward, what they're working on, because I'm going to be building this with the collective around me. So here's a little intro to design process using feminine life cycles. First of all, design, as I'm talking about it, magnetic design is, yes, about art, color, principles of creation, but it's also about consciousness. It's about connection to the body. And so that's just something that I want to acknowledge. If you're working with me, it's never ever going to be just a conversation about the what. It's always going to be the how. It's how you feel. It's how you, excuse me, want to experience life, because behind every design, be it a meal, a bedroom, a house, a landscape, is a desire for an expanded state of being on this planet. And that is ultimately what I wanted to tap you into. So that is what I mean by embodied co-creation. And emergent means developing over time. So we're going to skip past that for now. What I want to remind you is design involves dual processes. Yes, it is the creation process, it is the expansion process, but it's also just as much the surrender and the deepening. So, those moments, what I'm very interested in with people is those moments where we feel the most frustrated, disappointed, agitated. What happens when we lean into that, when we deepen into that, when we expand into that? What gets created on the other side? The way this looks in an actual creative process is not just the back and forth of the yin and the yang, the shadow and the light, but it is what I like to call four phases design. This is the creative process that I use. I have a different process for innovation, but creative process, I like to think of it as three main phases, but the fourth phase is the rebirth and the unknown. So what we're looking at first is the initiation stage over here on the side with the white. This is akin to spring. This is where you have the idea, but it's not fully in motion. This actually takes a whole process to get to. That's why I do dream doula work because of this red unknown. But initiation is, t we tend to think the design process starts there. Actually, it's starting at zero. It's starting in the unknown. We tend to think zero means nothing is there. Actually, zero means something is there. Actually, zero means you haven't started yet. But zero is still a creative place. There's a whole book on zero as well. I'll try to bring that into this over time. So from one comes two. The second stage is more like summer. It is production, it is life, it is creation. Now, within the second stage, there can be so many of these stages over and over and over. The editing process could be in there, etc. However, sometimes we never get out of stage two because we're so afraid of stage three, which is completion. Completion looks different depending on the art style. Completion, if you're building something that's physical, is obviously going to be the physical thing. Completion, if you're performing, is actually going to be the physical performance. Completion, if you're creating a graphic or a website, is going to be that thing. But sometimes completion is just exerting that creative force that wanted to come out that day. So you can actually be going through this creative process within an hour, within a minute, within a month, within a year. And then after the completion, the reason why we are so resistant to the completion is because completion is akin to the month of autumn, the season of autumn, which is about release. So it's both reaping, producing, but it's also a time of release and letting go. It's why many of us will not complete things because we are so afraid of having to say no, having to let go. Um, and there's actually risk in completion. And this taps us into a new unknown. This is why we fear the winter time because we are in the dark state. This is what is in a spiritual process called the dark night of the soul. And this can be pain, but this also can literally be what is in the feminine process more of like a womb, an unknown, a space of the divine feminine, a space of the answers are not here. And it's my desire to tap people into a recognition that this is a continuous process. So, though your single creation might have these four phases, your creative energy is actually continuously moving and continuously alive. I'll just say very briefly, this is also the same approach in a different way to how I approach relationships with people, because we have a tendency to believe that three, the completion is the marriage or is the dating or is the saying yes or is the birth. But just like a birth of a child is actually stage one, it's just the beginning. The marriage is just the beginning, right? The relationship is just the beginning, and then comes new layers. And I use the words adaptation for the unknown because something is adapting, changing, alignment for the initiation. It feels really good. It's exciting. It feels so real. Aliveness for the process because it's like all this contrast and creative energy. And then the completion stage, whether it's a fight, disagreement, or just a maturation and evolution, it's activating. It doesn't, activation does not always feel good. It can be traumatic, it can be a formal breakup, or it could be just a space of dissonance that's leading you into the next space. And so this is how creativity and relationship issues are very similar and very different than goal-based issues where we are just getting from A to B. In this process, we are tapping into continuous expansion, continuous evolution. And that's what can feel so uncomfortable about it because we don't want to have failure. We don't want to have limits. We don't want to have pain. And yet, all of those things are actually a part of a more beautiful design or a more mature relating. So, I'll just add on here to, even though this platform is called magnetic design goes hand in hand with my coaching, which for 25 and 26, I'm calling Wildly Sovereign because my coaching is my own design. And so even though I am always weaving together spirituality, sensuality, somatics, and creativity in my design work, I have different intentions for the collective that I am working with, since I'm always working on collective consciousness, not just individuals. And so if you are in a state where you know you're part of a larger transition, you're going through a death or a rebirth of some kind, a divorce, maybe even a marriage. I mostly work with divorce right now because I'm dealing with like big breakages, big autumn seasons. Um, I'd love for you to reach out and we can work on this relationship. That's exactly what happened with my client last year, who I had this whole design conversation with. The first week, a year ago in autumn, our first coaching session, she had signed her divorce papers. Her dad died unexpectedly, but like knowing, but the fact that he died literally when we started was pretty wild. And then a friend died, and then she got in a car accident. And so it was like, I remember our first sessions, I was like, what is present for you right now? And she would say, it feels like my whole life is being shaken up like a snow globe. And even within this whole year, the exact dreams that she wanted to bring forth, which was getting to perform in certain places, you can go back and listen to a podcast episode I have about this, all came true. And so it was an opening for me. I knew this, but I hadn't fully practiced it with somebody yet over time. And then being with her and watching her year unfold really opened up my eyes to the power of this work of staying open through the challenging place. So this is the purpose of Wildly Sovereign, is really beginning to connect more with these wild sides, the feminine sides, and the sovereignty, the masculine sides. And then if you're working with me, we will be working on these four areas of love, sovereignty, creation, and currency. More on that to come. The big thing that I want to emphasize here, I think that's enough for today. The big thing that I want to emphasize here, though, is that within magnetic design, we are going to be working with these four stages. And for people who would like to have accountability directly on their design, I have created a, sorry for the noise around me. I have created a graphic piece. It is a spreadsheet. And so this is what you can email me about. This is a way to actually track what you're doing according to these four seasons. So one of the things for me as a holistic coach is that I am tapping you into a more holistic view of your life and allowing you to be in this dance and balance of holding these areas. So as I just described with wild sovereignty, wild love, wild creation, wild currency, we're working on different dimensions of your life and you finding the balance of them. And on this spreadsheet, you can see this breakdown of support by week in your month. What are your priorities in these areas? And then this matrix that I just showed you, you have the not started, the initiated, the in process, the complete, and then this extra column here for possibilities. So the way that I'm working with you is not just to move from A to Z, but to tap you into this more circular process. Within this spreadsheet as well, this what I call the design dashboard, the magnetic design dashboard, you can also track your pieces directly. So the monthly dashboard is more about the holistic life because you ultimately are the source of creation. That creative energy at least is coming through. So we want to care for your whole being. But this is a place where you can actually track your pieces, your performances, your projects that you are producing. And then here, because I love to work with not just the creative process on a project, but the creative process of a life unfolding, this has come out of 8 years for me of building my own life and lifestyle and a more feminine approach to business. I have created four different tabs along the bottom. And so you have autumn, winter, spring, summer, and the annual vision. And with these tabs, you can add in, I have the phrase here, sustainable, surrendered, and prosperous, because if you work with a different coach, they're going to tap into something else. So what are my aims as a coach? I want you more sustainable, more prosperous, and more surrendered, because surrendered means receptive, open, and receiving to what life wants to bring you. So you're going to have your habits in there that have to do with those other categories. Then you're going to have your week goal here and your season goal, and you can track by week. You have your months along here, and then if you, as you can see within the months, I'm also labeling these colors. So you have your initiation and creation stage, your sustaining stage, your releasing and deepening stage, and your surrendered stage. Now, is every month going to go off of these? No, but I think you can feel here how this is going to build on itself. So you can actually track the 3 months of the season. Oops. Sorry, the 3 months of winter, the 3 months of spring, 3 months of summer, and then also, this is an option, you can track the whole year where every time that you just mark, let's say you did one of your creative habits 7 times, it's going to actually take track of that and show you over there. So this is a way to begin to be consistent. We are not just about our habits, we are about being receptive to different seasons of life. However, our habits do create our creative process because, again, creative force is coming through us. So the more that we meditate, the more that we take care of our bodies, the more that we're present to our relationships and our relationship to ourselves, where the relationship is breaking open, the more that we are present to our own dharma, our own life work, our purpose, our craft, our creativity, and the more we are mindful of our currency, our money, and our mindset, the more power, literally, we have to put our focus, our attention, and our energy on that which we want to, which is the goal here. We are all a part of systems that are directing our energy, our attention, and our presence in so many ways. What does it look like to come back to that which is here to elevate us, that which really will sustain us, bring vitality to us, bring life force to us? This is the goal, this is the aim. If you want to get into Wildly Sovereign with me and have direct group support calls, things like this, you can let me know. I'm going to work just with a select few, but otherwise there will still be design and trainings on here, and I would love to know what challenges are coming your way so that I can be creating tools and um, ideas that really support the creative elevation of the entire community around me. Much love.